All right, so welcome everyone. Oh, where'd Lisa go? Oh, there you are. Hi. Welcome everyone. As I mentioned, we have people popping. Mary Frances is going to pop in later. Ramona she's speaking tonight, and welcome to Quinn, who's just hopping on this last session. So thanks for joining me, and I'd like to get some feedback on last week, things you've learned over the week. We did the thinking types, the 5s, 6s, and 7s. So anyone want to comment on what you learned about them, or how the week has been, or anybody?
Let me just go. I'm trying to find my screen again. There we are. Well, I don't know, I've just been more aware of, well, my dynamic with other types. So I've had more acceptance around the differences, especially with the 7 type, because I'm familiar with it.
Yeah.
And so there's just been a real acceptance of the fact of how they process so different than I do. So I've been more accepting of my own way of processing and not making myself wrong and not making them wrong.
Nice.
It's just, oh, I can just accept that.
And doesn't that make life more interesting? Like sometimes I go, wow, isn't that interesting that that's the way you think or feel or react?
And it's around that thinking as opposed to feeling, like I'm much more of a feeler. And I can see the benefits of being a thinker, because it's like that's the default is the thinking. It's not the feeling, and it's not like it's wrong or, it's just different.
Yeah.
Well, then my question is how to translate, it's like there has to be a translation of some sort. Or that's how I see it. It's like, how do I find a language in between the two so that there's some communication and understanding.
How do you put your couple dynamics together?
Yeah.
In what way? So has it changed the way you communicate with your husband?
Yeah, well, I guess I'm more accepting of the fact that I'm just processed differently, and it's not wrong for me to do that. Where I used to make it wrong, because I used to think, oh my God, like there must be something wrong with me.
And it's very interesting because different personalities are different. Like, I don't think 7s think they're wrong.
No.
And neither, Mark, do 1s before growth think they're wrong?
No, of course not. The least likely to think we're wrong.
Well, 2s don't either, because we give all the advice. We have all the answers, so we can't possibly be wrong. Lisa, how do you answer that question? Do you relate? Both you and Lynn are 9s.
Right.
So do you relate to what Lynn is saying?
Well, totally. And I think just having the understanding of the other types and, being compassionate and giving them the room to think and feel or process what they do. It changes everything.
Did you, before, did you take the perspective that Lynn has, that she was wrong? If she didn't think the same, she felt she was wrong.
I think all the personality types, before you have an understanding of the Enneagram, you always are like, somebody's right and somebody's wrong, or I don't like the way you do this and do it my way, or the flip, it's one way or the other.
Right. I just went and got my hair cut today, and there was a gal in there, oh, the Enneagram. It's so funny when people either go, the Enneagram, what are you talking about? Or they go, oh, Enneagram, I love it. And so it was, we had a really cool discussion. Celeste, how about you?
Oh, I feel like I've been having more understanding and acceptance of myself.
Great.
and the role that anxiety plays in my life, and like not giving myself a hard time for just troubleshooting danger, so to speak.
What a great way of putting that. That is a great phrase that I am going to write down. Troubleshooting danger. Love it. May I borrow that?
Sure.
That is really a great way to describe a 6.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else, Celeste?
Well, it's a great attribute.
Yeah.
Because I'll just sort of give you an example. I've been away, and I have a friend who's cat sitting for me, and she called and she said that one of my cats had unfortunately peed on her bed, which was kind of unusual behavior. And this was last night, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, why didn't she call me this morning? What if he has like a partial urinary blockage? What if, that's a symptom? So, I'm just like going through all like the signs and symptoms with her and telling her, well, look out for this and look out for that. And it didn't even cross her mind, even though she had a cat for 20 years, it didn't even cross her mind that maybe that could be that could be something that's going on for him. But I was like, that's the first place where I went.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's head that off at the pass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they tend to do that when they are stressed.
Yeah.
or spiteful cats. Yeah, they're little creatures.
Yeah. I guess it's more I'm noticing just that part of me that like sees a problem and wants to like, head it off at the pass.
Mm-hmm. Have you found that you, with the knowledge of the 9 types now, that your anxiety has gone down, or you feel more able to react differently?
Well, I think relationally, yes. I mean, I still like have anxiety about other things
Mm-hmm.
in my life, but I think relationally, I feel like I have more understanding. I've been thinking a lot about my parents, and I think my mother is a 1 perfecter, and I didn't know that about her before.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm guessing that she is. And I'm thinking that my father is a 9, and so just yeah, I feel like I just have more curiosity about them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you take your family of origin and put together the personality dynamics, I find it's really, really healing. I don't know if I shared this with you before when we all went home to move my parents out of their condo. And I have 3 older brothers, 3 years in between each of us. And so we went home to, package everything up and sell and give away. Well, the patterns are still there. My 2 older brothers were making all the decisions and they were doing this. And my brother that was next to me and myself would say, well, how about this? Well, we weren't even heard, right? It was just old patterns. And it was like, I get why I'm my personality. I totally understand it now. And it gives you a lot of, for me, it was a lot of validation and verification. Mark, how was this week?
It was good. I didn't think much about the Enneagram though.
Oh, maybe that's good.
just sort of doing my thing.
Neat. Yeah, well, we've done a lot of work with the Enneagram, so. And Lisa, comments?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I see it even in family dynamics when like you go over to the grandparents' house and it seems like roles fall right back into old family patterns that you're just not even aware of it. It's unconscious. And you kind of can check yourself. It's like, oh my goodness, like as soon as I'm in this energy, I'm so easy to fall back. And just knowing the awareness, you can get more authentic with yourself and not fall into the stress of the way families handle things. And
those old patterns are just so ingrained, and it really takes a lot of consciousness, awareness, and willingness to shift them. I get really frustrated when all of a sudden that's coming up again. Seriously, like I have worked on that so much. I get really frustrated, like what? And then I, look into it, and it's another level or a different way of looking at it, or a different opportunity, maybe see the other person that's kind of triggering me again. Another opportunity for me to, really bring consciousness to it. And sometimes the old pattern is a good way. And I say, you know what, I'm choosing the old pattern today.
Well, and I find too, it opens the door for discussion, right? When something's happening with family members, where you can say, I know you really want to handle this your way, and you think everybody else's way is wrong. And now I really understand how in our family dynamic, you took on that role really young. And I just want to thank you for it, and have gratitude for it. And then it just opens the door to that conversation and the opportunity of sort of healing old past conflicts. And
what a great way of handling that, Lisa. What a great way. I would almost, when the recording comes, I'm going to, for all of you, to go back and the way you articulated that, because the more we appreciate other people and confirm their great traits, the more they shift. Otherwise, they stay stuck in righteousness and resentment, and so do we. And that's why I'm doing my Facebook Lives right now on Facebook about how to get along at Christmas time, how to understand the other personalities. And, one of the suggestions I have for them is figure out their great traits and praise them for it. Use humor. You really can shift people very, very quickly, because unfortunately, most people have never been verified on their great traits.
Right.
We all hear what's wrong with us, what we don't like about each other, what, I don't like that you do that, or you are always doing that. And so when you do say to people, what I absolutely love about you? I love your ability to, or I love when you do that. I'm going to work on putting some of that in my perspective, or, that's a trait that I'm going to work on and bring into my personality. That's what the Enneagram is all about. You're integrating all 9 types. Anyone else want to comment? Anybody?
Well, what I've been noticing, because of all the information we've had over the last couple of weeks, that triangle, like for me being a 9, I'm recognizing the 3 and the 6 more, right? And because I really feel like over the last few years, I've been more okay with the 3 part of myself, even though I predominantly live in the 9. And so I'm seeing myself in the 3. And so I've been really curious over the last couple of weeks around the 6 part, because in hearing Celeste share, I realized, like, even yesterday, it was the day before yesterday, it's like I went into that 6 place where I was really discerning and really, it's like fearful, like it's like, and I thought, okay, I'm in this right now. And so like just more awareness of all three of them. And so it's like I didn't have as much, like I would go there unconsciously.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's like the first time I'd gone there consciously, if that makes sense. And so I guess I'm curious about that whole thing because I feel like I'm around that whole triangle or that whole, what is it like?
Well, the 6 is your stress pattern.
Yeah, exactly. So there's the stress pattern and then the growth pattern. Like I'm seeing that I go around all of them. And so then I'm going, well, what if I could just be in that stress pattern and be okay with it?
Well, actually, I want you to realize that there is a high side to your stress pattern and there's a low side to your path of development. Right?
Yeah, well, I can imagine. So,
it depends on, so the great thing about the 9 for the stress pattern of the 6, yes, you can go into fear, worry, and anxiety, but the other part of that is the loyalty, the responsibility, the dedication of the 6.
Mm-hmm.
The humor, if the 9 can go into the humor of the 6 when they are procrastinating and not moving forward and going round and round in the fog, etc. You start to have all these tools of where am I, what's going on, where am I, what's happening, and so you stop and you go, okay, where am I, who's with me, what's going on, what triggered me, what are my reactions which are recognizable. Is it my stress pattern or is it my home pattern? And okay, what do I want to do about it? So you can go to the 6 and you can analyze. The 6 is great at analytical stuff. What's going on? What do I need to do to take action? How do I need to be prepared? So you can pull on all of those plus your wings. You have 5 personalities that you have really great traits. And so you start to know what your tools are, how you're acting and reacting, and then you can, put your unique equation together. That's why in the profiles, I've gone through and I've showed you your unique equation, what your wings are, what your stress pattern is, what your path of development is. And there are many, many levels to this. This is like 101 minor in the Enneagram, because there's so many other things about the Enneagram that expands outwardly. And I just wanted to do this it's a fundamental understanding of the 9 types. Hello, Mary Frances, welcome. You want to show?
Mm-hmm.
Mary Frances just popped in, so we'll wait a minute here and see if she'll, before we get started. Mary Frances, I can see your, oh, wait a minute. Anybody else want to comment?
I'm here. I'm just grabbing something to eat because I've been on the go. So
yeah, no worries. Do you
I'm
want
muting myself and I'm here.
Do you want to just comment on, before I move on, and then you can just eat?
Sure. What would you like?
So what was the last week like for you? We've been checking in with everyone with all the information now that people have had. Last week was the thinking types, the 5s, 6s, and 7s. Do you want to comment on the awareness around those 3 personalities in the past week?
Well, what I really focused on in working with people, friends and clients and whatnot, is the simplicity of, are they coming from heart, coming from thinking, or coming from gut? And I thought if I can get that far, it really served me in relating to them. So that's where I took it this week was, I think that's the real heart person. They're going to be a 2, 3, or a 4. And just knowing if they were in that section, it really helped facilitate me connect with them. And so then I was really looking at the thinkers going, wow, I really need to pay attention to how I relate to them in business, giving them a bit more structure than perhaps the others. So that's kind of where I took it this week.
Yeah, nice. Great. Anybody else a comment, and then we'll move on. All right, so this week it is about those gut instincts. And Mary Frances and I were in a workshop with a very brilliant young fella who is a genius, actually, a 5 contemplator. I meant data, knowledge, wisdom, and he was teaching us that there really is a brain in the gut. There is a gut instinct has a brain as well, and an instinct, and it was very interesting the way he was presenting that. So I'm just going to read this. If you are that body gut instinct, 8 asserter, 9 peace seeker, and a 1 perfecter, you are characterized by the predominance of instinct. You tend to act impulsively, be oriented towards action, and seek to resolve any relationship issues in the body and within yourself. You tend to filter the world through an intelligence of physical sensation and gut instinct. You get what you need by interacting very directly or indirectly. And what they mean by that is 8 asserters are definitely, they act immediately. 1 perfecters also react very quickly. But the 9 peace seekers act very indirectly with their passive-aggressive behavior or holding back or procrastination or making decisions. Life seems a struggle, and you use personal power or position to win and survive. As a body type, you have a don't mess with me attitude, and you 9s would maybe disagree with that, but the 9s are the most powerful on the Enneagram, even though you seem to be the sweetest, the nicest, the least likely to be in conflict or aggressiveness. There still is a 9 sort of handle that in a different way. You devise strategies to stay in control and assure your place in the world. You have a strong moral sense and will protect and make rules for the good of all as you see it. The predominant emotion is anger, which is processed differently by each of the 3 belly types. It can be openly expressed, it can be denied, as the 9s do, or it can remain unconscious without the need to be either expressed or denied. So 8 asserters and 1 perfecters are much easier aligned with the anger emotion, although 1s, it depends. Some 1s are very fiery, and other 1s, it's not right to be angry, so they don't allow themselves the anger. So let's start with the 8 asserters. They feel the anger is a natural instinct and will react immediately, very directly, physically, and verbally. Anybody want to give any input on the 8 asserters after reading the profiles? After, do you know of anybody? Do you struggle with anybody? None of us on here are 8 asserters. Comments?
I have a couple of 8 asserter friends and colleagues in my life, and I really appreciate their energy and their direction.
9s do.
And their wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're really, I can count on them. It's like they're starters. They have a lot of wisdom to share, at least the ones in my life. So I respect them, you know. I respect their astuteness and their ability to just keep driving.
They have a world view. 8s have a big world view and big energy, and they just take on the world. Any other comments on 8?
I have a comment. Mm-hmm. 8s that I know have very big bodies with very big personalities. Is that just a coincidence, or is that part of that energy?
Yes and no. Predominantly, 8s generally do have larger body types. Although, you know, I know 2s that have big body types. Is it because they go to their stress pattern at 8? I'm not sure. But even in the store today, there was a little girl about 5, and I think her personality was a 5, and boy, was she running her mom around. They have big personalities, and they can run a family even as a child. So 8s, you know, because they armor themselves up to take on the world, a lot of times they really do they can be small people. Like, actually, my previous sister-in-law was a tiny woman, but she's an 8. And that didn't stop her body.
Thank you.
Other comments on 8s? What do you love about them? What are you challenged by them? At their best, they're heroic, they are powerful, they're very magnetic. So if you have an 8 that's a healthy 8, they have incredible energy. Even later on in their years, they're still busy. They got their finger in pies, they're still doing stuff. It's amazing. I went to visit my dad one time, who was in a home, and we were sitting outside, and it was the summertime. And people would come out the door, and they'd have their walkers, and they'd wobble through the door trying to hold open this really heavy door. And we were sitting there, and all of a sudden, boom, the door banged open, and this man came through. He had one hand on the door, one hand on his walker, and he just blasted through the door. And I thought, boy, I'll bet you were a force years ago. Any other comments on the 8s? Who do you have in your life? What do you love about them? What's challenging about them?
The one 8 that I know, I found the directness obnoxious.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really had to learn how to just be in the receiving of that, because I'm a bit of a bold energy myself. And it was like, I didn't like someone coming in physically, energetically, and being rather know-it-all-ish, rather than diplomatic, receiving, and open. And I was challenged by that awareness.
Well, 8s, that's an unconscious pattern, because they use that pattern as a way to intimidate and dominate. Because domination and power and control is part of their personality before awareness. One of the fellows that I was in panels with in my training, he shared with us that, he said, I always thought my wife was just enrolled with what I was doing. And he says, now that I've done this work, I realized she was just steamrolled and she couldn't stand up to me. Mm. Generally, 8s will choose the more non-assertive personalities, because that works well for them. And yet they are very, very protective. They believe in justice and fairness. They really look out for the people who, boy, if they see an injustice, one 8 shared they were in a grocery store and this parent was berating their child. Not so great. And it was all they could do to not go over, take matters into their own hands. But that's their directness. They go over and handle matters right away, like, hey, that's not appropriate. So for the 8s, their energy, we all struggle with our patterns, and our patterns can sabotage us. Some of them shared with us that being an 8 is sort of like being being a locomotive going down a track. And you are going full steam ahead, and all of a sudden you see someone on the track, and you try and stop so you don't run over them or kill them. And it's really hard to stop a big train quickly. So for them, the energy comes up in their body very, very quickly. And for them, it's to manage that energy before it gets big, right? One of the things we do love about the 8s is their directness. They don't say it like it is, stand up, tell me like it is. They respect you. And as long as you do it with respect for them, they appreciate that. But respect is huge for them. And if you don't respect them, they'll take the legs out from under you. They will challenge you.
Can I add to that too? I just have experiences in work environments when you have a couple of 8s together and there's sort of fighting for the spotlight and fighting for the control. One thing I do, like when you mentioned respect, They're hurt easily too.
They are.
Uh-huh.
I'm glad you brought that up. You know, eights are they stand up for everybody. They stand up for causes. They'll take on anybody and anything. And one of the comments that eight says, people don't stand up for us. I guess people just say, well, it looks like you can handle yourself.
Yeah.
Why do I need to do that? But what we don't realize is that eights have a very soft marshmallow heart under that protectiveness. From early as a child, being vulnerable felt weak. And they were taught, stand up, speak up, take on the world. The world's a tough place. If you don't stand up, people are going to take advantage of you. So that's the world vision that they have. And they often feel very ashamed of their dominance, of their overaction, of their overreacting. It's also in my Get Love the Way You Need online relationship program. I go into the male 8 assertive personality and the 8 female. So the 8 females really struggle with that strong, powerful, dominant behavior in a relationship because they don't want to dominate the relationship. But if their partner's too weak, they do dominate it. And then how can I be soft and feminine when I'm also dominant? And so they share with me that they struggle with that quite a bit. And what they want a partner to do is stand up to them. You know, they're willing to do an equal play, but you got to stand up for yourself. Or they won't respect their partner. So that's sort of some of the dynamics that goes on in relationships when we're unaware. Anybody else want to comment?
I have a question, Eileen. This is Quinn here.
Yeah.
So for me, I realized that number 8 and number 9 both are, I have those as the number 2 or 3. But the thing is, I have a mix between the 8 and 9 because I'm a peacekeeper. Like I usually am the best person to make peace between people who are mad at each other. And yet, I'm also very straight and authentic and telling my piece as well with number 8. But I don't offend people. So is that a mix between 8 and 9 then? Or what is that?
We haven't confirmed your personality yet. When Quinn just jumped into the program today. And actually, Quinn, as soon as this comment is done, I'd love for you to introduce yourself to the group.
Sure. Sorry, I've been busy on the run, so that's why I couldn't talk earlier. But
that's fine. No, that's fine. So it depends on your personality, Quinn. There is what's called a wing. If you are a 9 personality, you may have a strong 8. So a 9 with a 8 wing is going to be more outspoken, more direct, have bigger energy than a 9 personality with a 1 wing, the 1 perfecter.
Okay.
And what some of them were talking about is, Lynn was talking about she knows her stress personality pattern and her path of development personality pattern. And so being able to access and understand those gives her more of the pieces of the puzzle of who she is and how she's reacting. Because when we are in stress, it's sort of a situational reaction. It's like, for me as a 2 supporter, when I'm stressed, I go to 8. 8 is my stress pattern. So I can stand up, be more direct, more aggressive, but it doesn't feel good. And so I go back after the situation, back to my home type. So it's situational behavior. And we can talk more about that afterwards.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, great question. So Quinn, do you want to tell the group who you are and what brought you to the program?
I'm Quinn. I'm from Calgary, and I'm a business coach. And what brought me to the program is, for sure, I understand the benefit of knowing the types of personality and who you are. I've done a bunch of other personality types, like the DISC and the, what's the other one? I forgot now. Yeah, exactly, the Myers-Briggs. So I'm familiar with those two, but then when I read your 9 enneagrams, it is quite, it's very, very good in terms of it's easy to understand and it breaks down and I know right away which type I am. I'm the optimizer, the number 7. I know right away that I'm that type as the home type. And then when you were, so I'm actually still behind in terms of doing other readings and stuff because I just literally got it a couple of days ago, but I'm really loving it. Yeah.
Great.
And I know the benefit of understanding these personality types.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, as I mentioned, I did record the other recordings, and you're going to get all 9 profiles. I'm still haven't edited the 2, 3, and 4. I hope you guys appreciate how much work goes into those profiles, because those profiles of 30 pages are hours and hours and hours of gathered information. And what I'm doing now is I'm going through and making sure the format is the same in all 9 types. So I'll get that done hopefully this week. So that's great. One thing I wanted to mention about the 8s is, you know, they're challenged with their own energy, and having quite a bit of that 8 energy, I can get quite aggressive as well. And it's like, how do you rein back in that aggression? It's a powerful feeling to be able to be in your body that much and have that power and directness and aggression, and then it's seen as a negative, and sometimes it's a positive. So it's a play back and forth, and it's very natural to them. My oldest brother is an 8 asserter, and there's so many great qualities about them. They're very protective. When I started school, he was in grade 12, and I was in grade 1. And at recess, I would turn on the playground, and he'd be standing off a ways away, and he'd just be watching to make sure no one was taking advantage of me. That's one of the great things about the 8 asserter. You know, we rode the bus home, and there was this one child on there, this kid who was a terrible bully. Like, you know, he would take his lunch bell and hit other kids over the head with it. My brother got up one time, grabbed him, gave him a talking to, and sat him in his chair and said, "Do that again, and it ain't going to go well for you." Never had any more problem. So sometimes that's tact works well when you're dealing with another bully. They are natural leaders, and they inspire others to achieve their full potential. And they, you know, when they use their strength to improve and to make the world a better place, and to use their let's get her done attitude and let's get this together, they really can change the world with that big energy. So
question, Eileen, when you say leader, I thought right now, oh my gosh, I know who in my life is another 8. But this person is so crazy shy, it's ridiculous. Powerful, potent, protector, all those things you're describing. And then when you say leader, this person is shy and hardly talks. So now I'm thinking this person's not an 8 after all.
Well, it could be an 8 with a 9 wing.
Okay.
Yeah. He could be, so there's parts of it, right? And
Right.
there's also, you know, what I haven't introduced to you guys, I don't want to give you too much energy, but what also goes hand in hand with this are the instincts. Self-preservation are the people who are looking to make sure there's enough food for them. You know, they're looking to make sure that their life is preserved. There's the one-on-one people who want just you and me, not anybody else, just you and me. And then there's the social, and it doesn't mean that your sociability, it means social consciousness for the world. So those are other things that impact also personality and couple dynamics. But he could definitely be, you know, my brother could be strong and direct and say the most direct things, and then he's kind of quiet and sits back. So an 8 with a 9 wing, and actually your wings are like other personalities. Again, as you dial down and you go into, am I an 8 with a 7 wing or an 8 with a 9 wing, and you start to study that, it becomes another personality too. Any other comments? Good? All right, let's go on to you 9s. What do you nines want to tell us about yourselves? We've got two of them here, Lisa and Lynn.
Yay.
What do you want to share about yourselves?
What do I want to well, I know myself too well.
So tell us what's your great points.
What's that?
Tell us what's really great about you.
Gosh. What's really great? Well, I think part of what's great is I can hold space for a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of people, places, spaces. Problem solver, right? Peacekeeper.
Easygoing.
Easygoing.
Don't need to take the spotlight. As a matter of fact, do you like to
I
do
know no spotlight. Well, I mean, I can. I'm working into it. I'm trying. That's why I'm trying to float around this triangle, because it's not that bad, but I prefer to be in the back driving the ship.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, I can be a leader, but from behind.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah. How have you gotten with speaking up for what you want? So if your husband says, which restaurant do you want to go to? What's your answer?
Doesn't say
Oh.
that. I say, which restaurant do you want to go to?
Probably, yeah. You have a 7 as a husband. I get that. And there you are. Do you just go along or do you speak up?
Well, I'm learning to speak up more, you know. I mean, there's times where I definitely default to a going along with, but it's much different now than it was in the past, because I'm much more of an asserter now, right?
So you found your voice, and
I found my I have, and I mean that's why I still default to a 9, but I'm so much. I know my holdbacks more than anything when I'm in like that aloof or that slothy, you know.
Yeah.
This is me, is like, you know, I'll bite off more than I can chew and then just go dormant.
Dormant is a good word, yeah. Because 9s like their comfort. They don't like change. They like things. They like sameness in a lot of ways. And the thing with 9s is when you start to wake that energy up in your body and you do start to speak up and feel, because you are a body type. So when you start to wake that up, you have more presence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lisa, what do you have to say with that?
I guess the things that I'll answer your question. The things that I like about my personality is we're great to have on a team because we value relationships. We value connection between people, and we're really good at managing other people in a group. And the downside of that is, she had mentioned too, is like you can take on too much, right? Because you can't say no. But I would say over the last 5 years, I've come to know that about myself, and I can manage it way better. Just knowing that. And then I usually, like for an example from a 9, is not answer right away, because my first answer is going to be yes. So I'll just say, yeah, I need to think about that, and I need to check in with myself and my schedule. So,
and that's about the development, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because 9s, you avoid conflict at all costs. 9s are also natural negotiators, and they are a personality that sees all other types equally to their own. Everyone else has their perspective is equal to your own, which is the upside. And the challenge is, how do I then make a decision for myself when everyone is valid? That's a challenge for a 9.
Yeah, I can resonate with that.
Mhm.
for sure.
Mhm. What about conflict?
Well, for the majority of my life, I avoided it. And I would go into a place of fear, right? And be like, oh, how do I keep juggling the balls around to make this conflict away, or go into guilt. I was motivated by guilt then, and now I don't take it so personally.
Mhm.
And I use conflict as an opportunity to grow rather than, you know, use it to something that I'm pushing away or I'm avoiding or procrastinating. I realize that here's an opportunity for me to grow and understand and stand up for what I really need and want. Because I know if I don't, I'm going to go into resentment and bitterness and so I can stand in that authentic place more easily and say, okay, here's something for me to learn.
Yeah. Like when nines start to wake up and realize all the missed opportunities they had to get their own needs met, they can become quite angry.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, if they don't have much growth, then they can blame other people for that. They can go into a victim role.
Yeah.
And
a martyr. I was
yeah.
like, look at everything I did for you, and it wasn't enough. And
yeah, so as they wake up, you know, it is, you know, I talked in that first piece about nines don't feel the anger. They don't want to feel the anger. That's conflict. They just want peace and harmony, like everybody get along. And then when the anger starts to come up, they go to 6, and 6s can be, they can be like scorpions. They can sting. And so the 9s can take on some stinging behaviors, right?
well, I kind of refer to it as a pleaser, like where it's like a wrecking ball. We're over on this side, pleasing, pleasing, pleasing. And then when we've had enough, our wrecking ball swings way over to the other side and we go into like rage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like the volcano. I'm nice, I'm nice, I'm nice, I'm nice. Boom! The top of the volcano blows off. And then as quickly as possible, the 9s want to go back to the being nice, and they don't want to deal with what blew the top of the volcano off. Mm-hmm. That's where the growth is to step into that and say, no, I'm mad, and I'm mad because of this, and I'm, you know, things are going to change, and be the change maker. For 9s to create change for themselves takes a lot of awareness and growth.
Yeah, and I use your volcano. I use it like the garbage can with the little pedal, right? We open it up and we put all our junk and all our needs and unmet things in our life, and we close it, and then one little thing happens and you hit your foot on that pedal and it all comes out. And they're like, why are you so mad? It was such a little thing. It was like the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah. Lynn, any comments on that?
I totally can relate to that. But I think, you know, over time, like there's that silent brewing of frustration and not being able to speak up when necessary. You know, like I think that's the growth for me, is being able to say it in the moment and not have to harbor it and hold on to it.
Yeah. 9s feel they were the forgotten child. They tried to keep the peace in the family. They did everything so no one there wouldn't be any conflict. I'm not going to put any more pressure on my family, so I just won't speak up. I won't.
Exactly. And so then it becomes.
And it also becomes a pattern of this flatness. Like if you are in relationship with a 9, other people can feel like there's this, and it's like, give me some energy that I can hook onto. Like
when I often have like my staff, because of the lack of not having a voice, or it's like I need to be reminded, like I have one of my staff is a 5, which I really appreciate because we're opposite. And so she'll say, you need to send something out. You need to talk to so-and-so, so I need that reminder because
you just go into,
and I'm better now. I can do that more now, but
yeah.
I like having that. That's where I appreciate all the other types because it's like, I can't do it.
9s can really flatline. They can go to sleep. 9s, that's why they call it sloth. 9s are not lazy by any means. They often are very active, sometimes have 2-3 jobs. But when you read about the Enneagram and they talk about your sin or your pattern of sloth, that's about you not waking up to you not taking action for you not getting. 9s talk about, sometimes it's hard for me to get up over top of the mountain to get going. It's a big rise for me to get there to where I can go, right?
Can I just mention one more thing too? As I don't even like to identify myself as a real 9, like someone who's a little more conscious about being a 9. I really check in with myself and say, if I'm about to handle something, I check in and say, is this coming from that place of fear or a place of love? So I can really be true with how I'm going to respond.
Good. 9s talk about when they wake up, they claim their independence and identity. Before they wake up, they give it away. And then they're angry.
Could you clarify that? Say it again.
So when 9s wake up, they claim their independence and identity.
Okay, so wake up, you mean spiritually, not wake up in the morning.
Become conscious.
Yeah,
wake
consciously.
up spiritually. Thank you.
Yeah. So they're, why 9s go into passive aggressiveness, which is their most powerful tool and makes them the most powerful on the Enneagram with that passive aggressiveness. And they do that stubbornness is, nope, I've gone along with the train far enough and I'm not doing it anymore. And so this stubbornness comes up and the passive aggressiveness, but they don't realize how often they're using that passive aggressive behavior. And
you say it's a push-pull, love, like with love, I'll give you love, I won't, I'll pull it back, I'll push it out. Is it a push-pull thing?
What's your feedback, Lisa and Lynn?
Push, pull, like.
For me, being married to a very unconscious, unaware, passive aggressive 9, it was a withholding.
Yeah.
He felt that he was protecting himself. And for me, it felt like he was withholding. There was a wall there.
Yeah, so I mean, I would agree with that part of it. I mean, I resonate with what Lisa says. I mean, I think as I've gone through more levels of awareness, then like I can look back on the past where there was a lot of withholding, but withholding in the sense of not being not knowing that I was withholding.
Yeah, of course.
But the more I speak up for myself and the more I've spoken up for myself now, that passive aggressive has decreased, that tendency, but it's really about being assertive. And for me, it's about respect and respecting, respecting myself, respecting others, and then deserving of respect, recognizing that others may not give me the respect that I want. They have a choice, but then it becomes more of assertiveness and really discerning when it's really important for me to speak up, not only for myself.
Do you have an 8 wing or a 1 wing?
Me?
Yeah.
I have a wing of an 8.
Yeah, good. Okay, so that's where see, 9s with an 8 wing can speak up easier. Right? 9s with a 1 wing will speak up when the rules are broken or that sort of thing. But 9s have more confidence and assertiveness with an 8 wing. How about you, Lisa?
Well, I'm I have an 8 wing. Because I can see, like, even when I wasn't even aware, I could still run a business and be really assertive with employees, and it just depended. Then, I would, and then in my marriage, that's when I didn't have the assertiveness, right? It just swung depending on who I was interacting with.
And that happens in a lot of relationships, I think, with all of us. We can be very different outside our relationships, but because we're emotionally invested and we want something, we can become doormats.
Yeah.
Celeste, how do you relate to, so 9 is your, 9, is 9 your stress pattern? Celeste?
No, it's my growth pattern.
Oh, right. Yes. Okay. So how do you relate to the 9 as from a 6 perspective?
Well, I don't know if you guys kind of see yourself as like visionaries, like you have kind of lofty visions. Does that ring true? Like,
Well, that would be the 3 part. 3s are visionaries, and they can see themselves as being super successful easily.
I don't know if it's so much about success as that I see, like, I get inspired and my thinking goes to like a higher level of what's possible for me, for other people, for the world. And I don't really think so much about the how that's going to happen. It's like the vision feels real and it feels alive and powerful. And I trust that the how will happen. I guess that's what I mean by visionary. And I don't know if that's part of the 9.
Yeah, I think it is, because 9s believe that things are just going to go with the flow and happen, right?
I think, yeah, I mean, that's part of it. Yep, that they're going to go with the flow and happen. But
it's going to happen organically.
It's less about going with the flow and more about like these visions of harmony. And like that's where my mind goes, to like these visions that are, I don't know, like fueled by just like these higher visions of, living in harmony with other people.
Yeah, well said. I think that's the gift of the 9. 9s are Zen, the Buddhas, you can change the world not by aggression, by the opposite, right? Yeah.
Eileen, what about secrecy?
Secrecy for the 9s?
Is that something?
Lisa, Lynn, how do you relate to secrecy?
I would say, you mean meaning
like protection, privacy, unwillingness to be open? I guess that's the withhold, maybe.
I would say we're more willing to be open. The secrecy would be more like if you're suffering, you're not going to be open about that.
Yeah.
I think 9s have a tendency to hide. So you call it secrecy, but I think more of a hiding.
Okay.
Don't shine the light on me. I don't want a bright light on me.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
I just want to do my thing, and I don't need a lot of light. I'm very uncomfortable in the spotlight. So I think it's not, like 5s are secret. They like their privacy. But 9s are more about, I don't need a big presence.
And therefore create a big presence, possibly because of it.
They can. So think of President Obama. His energy is is laid back, easygoing, peaceful guy. You know, let's talk things out. And yet, didn't he have a great, you know, he really was a very good leader and president.
Was he a 9?
Yeah. Yep, definitely. Obama's a 9.
I think I have a 9 family member.
You know, and
got really pissy with me, hangs up the phone, and then I want to say, hey, that's not cool. Oh, let it go. And I'm left dangling by some peacemaker that wants to let it go, leaving this, you know, train wreck behind in the inability to communicate, the desire to be private, yet throwing it. I think that was what I'm picking up here.
Yeah.
That's a dynamic that's been acting out. And
yeah,
let it go. It's like, okay, like, hello, we gotta, like, I think that's a very lower level 9, maybe.
Yeah, you threw the bomb, so now stay with it till we can bring it to peace, right?
And and the unwillingness to do that and just say, oh, let it go. It's nothing.
Or everything's gonna be okay, right?
And it's not, because there's an overly sensitive, like, one on the other end going, this isn't. Yeah, okay. I'm thinking I have an 9 in my family. So,
or an expressor, like, no, we're going to deal with the emotions. Oh, no, let's just
let it go. And so every time I get to let it go, I feel unloved, disconnected, and dissed. Yeah.
And they're just.
And I feel the love's been withheld because that's the feeling on this end of that interaction.
Like a lot of 9s don't know how to facilitate conflict or anger. Their whole life has been back away, pretend it's not there. You know, just, right?
Totally.
But I think we come with the love. Like, we're very motivated with love and connection and relationship. I would say, Lynn, I don't know about you, we don't withhold that. We want that.
And also that again, your point, Mary Frances, it depends on the level where they are, right? How much development they've had. And so if they haven't had a lot of development, they are going to withhold and not know what to do with high level emotion.
Yeah, and then just hang up the phone and then I go into my storyline about that.
Yeah, then you feel unloved and unappreciated.
Yes, completely. You know, like, yeah.
So, you know, you can learn, Mary Frances, you know, there's research that I can give you on the 1 and the 9 and the dynamics together. And
that would.
So Lisa, what would you say to a 4 expressor such as Mary Frances coming from a 9 peace seeker when, you know, you have someone that might get very emotional? How would you handle that?
Might will.
Well, and let me just add on to that it's a family dynamic. So there's issues, there's past resentments, there's, you know, justifications, there's all that stuff that we have in family that gets triggered all the time.
Is recognize it and not and be compassionate of where it comes from and understanding and not take it personal.
Oh, it is personal in the family though, right?
Yeah. My suggestion to you is to realize the impact of a highly emotional state when you get upset, the effect on all the other 8 personalities, because to you that's being authentic and real. You are in your emotion, it's authentic, it's real, it's who you are. For the other 8 personalities, they don't know what to do with it. There's the intensity there, there's the emotion there. They want to validate, but a lot of other personalities and unaware personalities don't know what to do with that. So they just go, that's drama, and they back away, right? Is that helpful or not?
Yes, I still feel I'm sucking up my truth and reality to put up with someone who is playing a game in my head.
Mm-hmm. Well, another suggestion is when I talk to people and I have an issue, I want to give them not just how I'm feeling, but how they can resolve it for me.
Well, I did that. I did my very evolved way of having a greater understanding and saying that I'm feeling disconnected, dissed, unseen, unloved when you hang up the phone on me and then say, oh, it's nothing, because I receive it as hurt, understanding where you're coming from, that it's too much. I just want you to understand that this is not helping us go deeper in love. It's not getting either of us what we desire. And I'm not okay with the pattern that it's okay to hang up on my ear and then think it's nothing. I said, I really want to
take it one step further. So what I need from you is, when this happens, would you stay with me? Could we talk this out? Because I'd like to understand what's going on for you that's maybe causing you to shut down, and I want you to hear me as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so give them some way of acting and interacting that's out of their pattern, out of their scope of understanding, so that you can both change the pattern. Because just informing and then being hurt is what every relationship does. And then that's where everybody gets stuck in the frustration. Now I'm frustrated. We've tore off the scab. I don't know what to do. And everybody's upset. And so people just generally try and go away in the corners.
And I'm just not okay with putting things under the carpet anymore.
Yeah. So give them a solution. Will you stay with me, and will you tell me what's going on for you that causes you to hang up when I'm upset? I'm not judging you. I just want to know what that is for you.
And the answer was, well, I don't approve of you or the way you are doing things, the choices you make. I've just had enough of you. And then it becomes very condescending as well as being dissed, and it's just yucky.
Yeah, it's just low awareness. People don't know what to do with that, and it is about you changing the pattern and claiming who you are.
Well, at least I spoke about it versus...
Well, things are shifting, and you will shift.
Because usually it's like, that's it, I'm done, like back off, and I'm never coming back kind of thing.
But you have your whole family thinking you've changed the pattern. You really do.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And so what I would ask of you is to be compassionate with them as they're going through this and shifting and being confused and not understanding, and why are you acting this way? And yeah. All right, let's get to the one perfectors, and we have a one perfector, Mark. So Mark, tell us about Mark and being a one perfector. Mark has had a lot of self-growth, so it's going to be a great discussion. And we have to remember that this is 2 hours later where Mark is, so we don't want this to go on for a long time.
I first became aware of the Enneagram, I think it was in 2000, and the healer that I was working with pegged me right away. And when I read the descriptions back then, it was so obvious. And I think one of the hallmarks, at least for me, of the one perfector is about doing the right thing. There's a certain way to do things, and that is so true for me. Doing the right thing is a huge motivator for me, and that I have a strong sense of right and wrong and sense of justice, and so that's huge. The other thing that was fascinating was I worked with Eileen recently, and even though I knew I was a one, I was pretty sure, having read a couple of books on the Enneagram anyway, going through the paragraphs that she has, what I did was I read the paragraphs, and I underlined things that were true for me. And I underlined the entire paragraph of the one perfector. and the only other paragraph that even came semi-close was of course, the 4, because when I'm stressed, I totally go to the 4. Very emotional. I actually love that aspect of my personality, although I can get stuck there. And what's fascinating too is that when I'm not in stress, and I absolutely go towards the 7. I want to have fun. I want to go do fun things. It can be very, very spontaneous. Just decide I want to go somewhere, do something, and I have no idea where I'm going to stay or what I'm going to do or what's going to happen, and can have a blast. So discovering the Enneagram was just fascinating.
And isn't that interesting? Because it's the exact opposite of your personality, right?
Of the 1 perfected,
from the very
yes.
structured going to the 7 of the least structured.
Right, and I'm an incredibly highly structured person. A place for everything in its place. If someone comes to my place and they use something in the kitchen and they don't put it back, I get totally pissed and stressed about that. Drives me absolutely bananas. Lot of things have to be ordered a certain way. I'd like to have things ordered a certain way. If I make plans with someone to do something and time frames change or the plans are changing constantly, it drives me absolutely bananas. Like going on vacation with my folks, I just won't do it, because if we're going as a family, my folks, my brother, my sister, and my sister's family, it's like every few minutes, oh, we're going to do this. Well, we changed our mind. We're going to do something else. And I remember the last time I went on vacation with them, I just got to a point and I said, no.
It's too chaotic.
Go do whatever the hell you want to do. This is what we said we're going to do. That's what we're going to do. And it also drives me bananas because there were kids involved. And I'm just of the belief that you just don't keep changing things on kids. If you tell them you're going to do something, you should. That's the plan. You should follow through. It gives them a sense of order and something they can depend on. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I'm just looking at the list in the, so finds compromise difficult. Absolutely. The other thing too is the striving for perfection. Always you can always improve. And even when you get something really right, or you've accomplished something, then you go back to thinking, how can I improve on that? I remember in one of our sessions, I'd said something and you suggested to me that, you did the best you could. And I said, no, I could have done better. I know I can do better. And that's very, very typical of me as a 1 perfecter. I know that there are things I can do better. Mm-hmm. So what else? Just looking at the paragraph here. The strong morals and sense of responsibility is huge. Always been like that. Strive to do my best. Very, very high internal standards. And the downside of the 1 is we tend to be incredibly judgmental. So because we have such high standards, if others don't meet up, you become very judgmental, and it really gets in the way of any kind of relationship if you're being judgmental towards others.
Well, you were sharing before the others came on about being what it's like to be less judgmental.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I went to a workshop on Saturday, and I'm fascinated by people, and what I'd noticed was that, so I'm in this one-day workshop, and there's probably 35 people in the room. And I'm just observing the different people and paying attention to my gut sense and my feel about people. That's another thing that's so true for me. Everything starts in the gut. Mm-hmm. And I evaluate almost everything from how my body and my gut feels about things. And I noticed instead of where in the past I'd be judgmental about people and having judgmental thoughts, it was more, I would look at someone and think, oh, isn't it interesting that this is their body position, or this is interesting that they chose to dress that way, or that's really interesting. Why does she have that look on her face? So rather than be judgmental, it's, I wonder what's going on, what's really happening for this person. And I think that that's been a huge shift in the last few years, but working with you over the last 4 months, Eileen, and working on the path to growth and development, and being more compassionate toward myself and not as judgmental on myself, and also working on being more accepting, has helped me find my way to opening myself to seeing who others are rather than being judgmental.
Yeah, great.
So it's actually helped smooth things out, and I also noticed I don't get this trigger around my parents as well either. There's more of a desire to see these two people for who they are and what might their struggles have been, as opposed to being judgmental toward them.
Nice. Yeah. You mentioned that you really have a curiosity now more than a judgment.
Yes.
That's really, can you share with us, so, sometimes it's not right to get angry, so they will share with us that they get, they call it irritable or nitpicky.
Oh, absolutely. We can definitely be seen that way, and sometimes we are just really nitpicky about things. I think I'm more apt to let that go these days.
So that is a sign for a lot of ones when that starts to happen. Okay, what's going on? And for them to start looking at, so what's going on? What's resentment is building up? What's happening? So that you can
yes,
into balance, right? That is the path of development.
Yeah, anger is definitely something that I struggled to accept. And it usually means that there is some kind of resent or something like that going on. Yeah, and oftentimes it's because I'm thinking something's out of place. And that's important to us as ones, is that things be in their place, that order is maintained.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions for Mark? You have a one perfecter in your life.
I have a question. I have
Sure.
One of my new staff members is a 1 with a wing of a 2, or kind of tied for 1 and 2. And I can really, she's got so many characteristics that are so amazing for our business right now. But I want to know how I can best understand how to make it easier for her, maybe, or how to work with her, or how to, bridge this conversation. Or so I'm curious around that being, I see the potential for her to be an office manager, and because she's got this meticulous attention to detail. Oh my God, like you're just like, yes, I can't do that, so please come and do this. But I also can recognize a little bit of the frustration that she has around the unsettled, tumultuous nature of our business. So can you give some, does that sound like?
I can relate to why that. It's funny. I for a time was an office manager, and in a publishing company. It would drive me bananas. We'd set up these standards for how ads were typed up and different fonts used, and it would drive me bananas when people would just make stuff up that broke those standards. I think what's helpful to me is being given very clear directions about what is needed. Here's what I need you to do. Someone coming to me and saying, here's what I need you to do, X, Y, Z, and do that. I don't know what I would say if things are really tumultuous and constantly changing. I guess someone coming to me and saying, I need you to let that stuff go, and here's where I need you to put your meticulous, detailed attention. I find it's very helpful for me when someone gives me a specific about what needs to be done, because then I just focus and hone in on that.
Right.
And let the other stuff go. The other thing, I think it's in general for everyone, but I think for me, what would be useful as a one perfecter is receiving appreciation for the specific things that I'm doing that work for that work environment. Because then I'm going to want to turn my attention more to those things. And I think that having my attention focused for me, I can then go and do my meticulous thing. That's a word commonly used to describe me. Do my meticulous thing with what you're appreciating me for in that area that you're appreciating.
Mark, do you have a suggestion on how they could shift you towards the 7 in certain instances? Like, how would they go about if this person is, without consciousness or awareness, is getting wound up in the details and the rules and all that sort of thing? They're very structured and they're becoming very frustrated. What's your suggestion for inviting them to go to the 7?
So is the 7 the stress pattern or the
path of development for the 1?
That's the path of development for the okay.
1.
That's a great question. I don't know. I can think of things I would do to get myself out of that.
Yeah, because you've got a lot of growth and awareness. So what would you do?
It's also that my dad, I think my dad is a 1, but my dad is the silly one in the family and can be light and joke around. So for example, I was out for a walk with someone and I said, let's skip. That's not a 1 thing to do that I would think of, but it's very much in line with the 7 part of me. So trying to do something playful.
That's Gwen.
And I think it would be trying to encourage someone to be silly, or stepping them out of the thing that they're trying to do that's structured. So I guess anything that is sort of playful. But I don't know. Usually it's I have to be in the right state of mind, and so when I'm working on something, anything, whether it's personal growth and development, or I'm cooking food. I love to cook. I'm preparing food on a weekend for the next week or something, or just so that I have it in the freezer for whenever I want it. I don't want to be pulled away to something else. I don't want to do anything playful. I want to get done what needs to get done. Then I want to go sit and relax.
My suggestions would be to praise her whenever she does go lighter. Say, I love that you have this attention to detail, that you can focus and hone in. And I also sometimes love the lighter side of you when you're doing that. So catch her in that. And I think humor is always great to use to pull someone out of their pattern without them, as long as it's not deprecating. It is, laugh at yourself, say, oh my God, I just had the craziest thing I realized about myself, blah, 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 blah. And I find that works well.
Thank you.
Yeah, Celeste, I agree with you. It helps so much when someone is upset with her to be willing to collaborate and find a solution. Truly, yeah. Anybody else have any questions for Mark? As the 1. Now, Mary Frances, your path of development is to go to the 1 as a 4.
Yes. So it's interesting because I, not that long ago, had to release somebody from my circle of friendship who was a 1 because it was condescending and arrogant and snotty. and I could be silly, fun, and playful and inspire connection. And it got to the point that I do not appreciate anymore this judgment piece of telling me what to do when I didn't ask you what I didn't ask, and I'm getting dumped on about, you should do this and you should do that. And I'm just like, so it's interesting that that's my passive development, because it's the very thing that I had to like get literally out of my circle of friendship.
But for you, with the path of development, when you go into the three-legged stool, the emotion, the thinking, and the gut instinct. Mm-hmm. So for you, it is about when you spiral into that emotional ditch over here, what helps the fours is to go to the one and become more structured. The list, the organization, the what do I need to do? And that's
I call that my nurse brain. I'm a nurse. I do that like instinctively.
Right. But that is that is the way.
So I do flip into that. And I can take that capacity into different areas of my life. Historically, it was being a nurse. Instantly can be structured, organized, list, make a game plan, and reevaluate. I mean, that was, thank you for that, because I don't see that as a one. I just call it my nurse's cap, right?
Yeah, no, it's not the development.
And I lead from that place.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my leadership skills come out in that capacity, even though I'm calling it something else. Thank you, because now I can see that perhaps is what it is as a one.
Yeah. And as you realize, for me, when I get really emotional, I'm not logical. And I have learned to really go into more logic and thinking to get myself out of the emotional spin that I can go in. And it's really funny because enjoy that.
When I'm most stressed out, and nowadays if I ever get a call, hey, we need a nurse today, I actually feel better after doing that. Even though I don't do it often, I feel good, because you're right. I'm snapping out of whatever, and I'm into structure and organization and creating value from that place. And
cool. And so, Mark, going into your stress pattern of the four.
Yes.
The dramatics of the four.
What's the question?
So tell us what it's like for you when you go into your stress pattern of the four.
I tend to get stuck in the emotion, and I wouldn't say overwhelmed, just maybe swim in it too much, and perhaps lose track of perhaps what I should be focusing on or getting done.
I know that was a big shock to you when we talked about, in our sessions, when you realized that when you get stressed, you go into the emotion.
I don't know that was a shock. I've known that since I've learned about the Enneagram. It was very, very clear.
Okay.
But it's definitely something that I do. When I'm stressed, I just go right to the four.
Yeah. Any other questions before we wrap this up, people? Anybody want to comment on, would you mind commenting on the series and learning the 9 personalities? And this discussion it is so rich when you can gather people together and have a discussion about the personalities. And I'd like to thank all of you and again remind you that this is recorded, and I may be turning this into an evergreen with your permission because your comments are so valuable and so real and expand people's understanding. So anybody want to comment?
Yeah, I'll comment. It's Lisa. It's been, I don't know why my picture doesn't come up.
Oh, you were multitasking and it was distracting, so I turned your video off.
Oh, I didn't know that I thought I did have my video. I thought I turned it off.
No, that's fine. You're back.
No, and so yeah, what I wanted to say is how helpful it is, because I think people, in situations they would do the right thing if they knew what to do.
Or how to handle it better, right?
Yeah, and how to respond rather than react. So it gives people answers and choices and directions to go and understanding. And that's a beautiful gift.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else comments about the series?
I really appreciate hearing the dynamics from different ones because I like different types. I haven't been in as diverse group to sit in and listen, so I like that opportunity. I'd love to have an opportunity to be with more and really, I know that some of the other studies that I've done with the Enneagram, they do that. They get big groups together and really.
Yeah. Well, that's how I was trained. Each personality type, there'd be 4 or 5 on a panel, and there'd be questions given to us. And so it really did give us real, not textbook information, although it is.
And I think the dynamic, like from each one, even though you might have 5 9s, they have a quality that's similar, but they're also different.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would like to do this again, and I would like more people on the next session. So that's what I'm asking for each of you. If you wouldn't mind doing a video testimonial or a testimonial on the program, what you learned and what you valued and why you would. And if you've been on it, you're welcome to always come back on.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Celeste,
Thank you, Eileen, and everyone for your participation.
Yeah, because we all learned. Celeste, do you have any comments?
Well, I just want to say thank you for your generosity for allowing us to continue to deepen in our I just really appreciate all that you have to share and have shared with us, and that you're still making it possible for us to continue to deepen in self-awareness and understanding and acceptance of others.
Thank you. Yeah, I love the Enneagram. What I would suggest your next step is for each of you is I have that relationship program called Get Love the Way You Need. And it has some of this information in it, but it's the relationship part of it. The similarities are going to be what we love about your personality, what we recognize, but it's also got what you need from your partner specifically, what your partner needs from you. It's more of a relation, how to negotiate from your personality, step together, your loving style, etc. So I suggest that would be your next step is to, whether all 9 or just your individual and then your partners or whatever, that's going to give you a wider, it's not the same information, some of it is, but it's also in a different context. Any other comments?
I just want to thank you for letting me join the 3rd session. I totally missed the first 2, so that sucks, but I'll watch the recording.
Yeah, and if I offer this,
it's really fun to hear you share the other profiles.
Yeah, and if we do it again in the new year, let's get as many people as we can on it, because as you can see, the more people sharing, the richer the information. I attempted to fill in with other stuff, but so any other comments before we go?
I'll say thank you, Eileen. I am endlessly curious about life and human nature and what makes people tick. So this is just one more entry into getting myself, my relationships, and each other deeper. And it just satisfies my hunger to learn and know and be curious about that journey. So, and the way you offer all of this has been really valuable. And I too have loved checking into everybody else's experience and feedback, and lots of ahas and empowerment with new languaging around expressing who I am and receiving others for who they am has been very valuable. So I'll definitely do a little video for you, girl. You know that.
Thank you. Well, in your family gatherings, check into some of those Facebook Lives I'm doing, but in your family gatherings, it'll be a richer experience this year at Christmas.
I've actually decided not to go to the family gathering as a result.
Good for you.
From a very solid place, though.
Yeah. Instead
just
of a
claiming.
spin, right? Instead of a victim, it's a very empowered decision.
It's cool.
Yeah, neat, neat, neat. Well, wishing you all an amazing Christmas, and I'm always here. If you have questions, check in with me. I'm always here. I'm happy to give you some insights and help you through whatever situation. So thanks for joining me.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Christmas to everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.